It's The Last of Us Day at the time of this recording, September 26th, the day that the outbreak happened and the world changed forever. Yes, we got the awesome HBO trailer, which is extra cool if you just played through The Last of Us Part 1. Like this remake, it's of course mostly made for that brand new TV audience that will be coming in 2023, but it actually also includes a ton of nice extras and hidden changes that you will enjoy if you already played through it at least once. Plus, and it's very interesting, there might be a tease in Part 1 for Naughty Dog's next IP. So a ton to go over, of course. If you at any point enjoy the video, then leaving a like would be amazing. Subscribe for more content on the franchise and let's go. So yes, there is more than the improvements to the graphics, although they are totally worth noting. I just love how the world is more overgrown now, taken over by nature, which gives it more that The Last of Us vibe we grew accustomed to in the sequel. The environment is of course way more destructible now, which makes firefights or scenes where you're being chased by the military vehicle more intense, and I loved how Digital Foundry highlighted that the game now has reactive carpet, which you can already experience in one of the early parts of the game. And another highlight is of course that the characters are way more realistic, and the best moments from The Last of Us just hit harder where you can see the expressions of a character. It was really easy to get emotional again, even after having already experienced the scenes at least once. And by the way, an interesting small change early on in the game, when you're being scanned, Ellie of course attacks the soldiers, and Tess now points a gun at Ellie, while in the remastered version on PS4, she did not do that, as pointed out by Sir Moondoggy. Also on Reddit, we have Coppers, who notes that Joel now finally has a birth year. He was born in 1981, and you can see it in the model of the soldier, like early on in the game, when he of course checks the passport from Joel. Yeah, kinda hard to see. Luckily we have the image from Reddit as well. So he was 52 during part 1, 56 in part 2, and 32 in the prologue. And yes, it says September 26th, 1981, so the day of the outbreak and the day that he lost Sarah was also his birthday. Damn. More obvious changes are to the UI, like both games are now a more coherent experience. Not only the crafting menu and passive upgrades are the same as part 2, but also the generator was first different and now improved. And where on PS4 the save would just open after you found a code, we now see Joel get on his knees and you have to put them in manually. But the biggest UI improvement is of course for the weapon upgrades, that in the original was just a menu where you could use your found resources, but you now really see Joel work for it, put a scope on the weapon and upgrade the magazine size. It is weird though that the flames from the flamethrower kind of feel like a downgrade in a way, with the flames on PS4 looking a bit more realistic in my opinion. Now this is of course one of the weapons you find a little later into the game, and I always liked the pickup animations when you find new firepower, which was also in the original, but now they improved the way you pick up items across the board in part 1. You, for example, now immediately examine the many Firefly pendants that are hidden in the game, or when you pick up a comic that Ellie likes to read, you can now immediately check it out instead of having to sit down and pull up your backpack after grabbing it. I also like the improvements to the lighting in the opening scene, so when Sarah picks up the newspaper, you can actually read it on PS5, and they completely changed the phone you pick up a little later, adding a cool background picture to give it that extra visual as well. The room also has a ton of extra details, like wristbands on her nightstand, stickers on her bed, and the pictures are a bit different and rearranged. But the most interesting addition to the environment is totally the clipboard we see added to the dorm, and I want to thank Eli for finding this. So at one point during the university chapter, you fall down into the dorm with a ton of infected. We cleared them out here already, but yeah, go inside the room near the broken vending machine, and then on your left hand side you find this clipboard with some interesting pictures. And again, these were not in the PS4 or PS3 version of The Last of Us, as you see here in remastered gameplay from Watch Me Baby. But if we go back to the PS5 version, we see 5 images, all with a different art style, but they all have a fantasy setting in common. On the first image, top left, we see a lady casting magic from the looks of it. Next to that we have a dragon attacking a princess with a big ass sword. I'm kind of getting Aloy vibes from this one, and all these 3 images were by the way also found in The Last of Us Part 2 in one of the Abbey sections. but there are also brand new ones. Like, I don't think this winged unicorn is that interesting, but the one next to that is also probably the closest to an actual in-game shot for a Naughty Dog game. It seems like this one is completely new for part 1. Another girl with what could also be a flying mount. Now, worth noting is that Naughty Dog teased The Last of Us in Uncharted 3 via a newspaper, talking about how scientists are still struggling to understand the deadly fungus, and a poster for Last of Us American Daughters could be found in Uncharted 4. So yeah, they've done it before, and also in 2021 a senior concept artist at Naughty Dog uploaded a similar fantasy medieval art to his art station. Like, I would love to have a Naughty Dog spin on the fantasy medieval setting. Maybe this is the game they will work on after that Last of Us standalone multiplayer title that we should see more of in 2023. Neil, at least during the Summer Game Fest, announced that he is working on a new project as well. So maybe it's this, maybe it's something else. I'm overall just really excited for the potential of a new IP from Naughty Dog. Now, I think we can be sure of one thing, and that is that this next game will probably have a similar set of extras that we now also see added to the PS5 release of The Last of Us, including those filters we saw in part 2. And I'm curious, like, let me know in the comments if you actually use them, because I just wonder who they're making these for. But if that's you, then you got a ton of options to have the game look quite different. There's once again a concept art and model viewer, kind of the same story. No, I would spend my points that you earn by just playing through the game and earning trophies on the skins and the gameplay modifiers. Skins are basically outfits for Joel and Ellie. Now sure, there are a lot of simple recolors, but I like the winter gear, which is kind of similar to the outfit Joel uses in part 2. There are new backpacks, like you will be looking at that very often, so it's a nice change. And there are some gun skins that I personally don't really notice. The outfits for Ellie are better, by the way. She doesn't only have Jack goggles, so headgear from the Naughty Dog PS2 series, but also outfits based on other Naughty Dog properties or PlayStation IP in general. Like almost all the big games are represented here. I personally really like the Resistance shirt or the Ghost of Tsushima shirt. I think this color combination just works really well for Ellie, but there are way more to choose from. Now, the sad part is that these only unlock after having finished the main story. So even if you, like me, already completed the game on an older console, you still have to play through it on PS5 first to access one of the biggest new additions. It's kinda wild, in my opinion. Because now that I played through this game on PS5, I really don't have the urge to go back in, so I won't be using these outfits as much as I would want to. You can also only view the preview of the outfits in the main menu, not when inside the actual game. And the outfits you equip only show up after restarting a checkpoint or dying, which is also not that convenient. Another thing we see improved and expanded upon in every new Naughty Dog release are the accessibility features, that also can have now huge impacts on combat encounters in the game. In other accessibility options, you can find things like navigation assistance that will tell you where you need to go. You can enhance the listen mode, which then also lets you scan for items, which is kinda wild. And if you don't like certain puzzles, you can just enable this option and they can skip them, which is nice when you're, for example, going back to chapters for certain collectibles. Another nice hidden feature in the alternative controls accessibility options is the auto pickup feature, which immediately lets you pick up nearby ammo and ingredients without having to mash triangle all the time. I think it's totally worth it to scan this accessibility menu and enable some of the options that you might like. I played without any of them, wish I enabled some of them, so don't make the same mistake. Like, the game is fine without them, but more options are of course always welcome, especially as these enable more people to enjoy one of the best single player games ever. And there will be a big influx of new people with the launch of that HBO show, but I'm personally mostly curious about the multiplayer game and also what Naughty Dog will do next after The Last of Us. Like, when we know more about that, I'll of course let you know here. A like on the video would really help me out, and check out my previous video on Naughty Dog updates we got at Summer Game Fest with even more news on their new projects. I will speak to you soon. Goodbye.